Welcome into Rounding the Bases.
Round the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg. It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.
Hi, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Rounding the Bases presented by Community America Credit Union, investing in you. Shout out to my friends at Chief of Staff Kansas City. If you're in the market for a job, looking to hire someone, looking for that right person, that right fit, or just a resource, check them out. Great partner of mine. They believe in culture. They believe in people. Chief of Staff Kansas City. Chief of Staff KC.com. Speaking of Kansas City, we're going local today with, I believe, a podcast that can really help in terms of leadership and building culture. And this is something that's being done at a very high level, but in some ways at a small level because it involves high school sports. Of course, when you win on a regular basis, it's a really big deal. And if you're winning on a regular basis, it takes more than just talent. So today on Rounding the Bases, I'm joined by a dominating force in the world of high school athletics. Meet Joel Applebee, head football coach of the Mill Valley Jaguars, who has turned student athletes into state champions for 5 consecutive years, and they hope counting. It took more than a playbook to shatter the record book, beginning with grit, humility, and the determination to grow. And by rising to the challenge, secured not only his legacy as the winningest coach in Kansas State history, but as the undisputable champion of gridiron glory. Joel, great to be able to see you virtually. I know that we had a chance to catch up for lunch sometime during the baseball season. It all blends together. And of course, now you're knee deep in it. Football season is starting. I want to get into all the history of building a champion and a culture, which is really the big piece and theme here. But what is this time of year like? What is August like for you as you start to gear back up? I don't know if you ever gear down, really.
Yeah, no, it's very busy. We actually just came off about a week and a half off at the end of July. So then as soon as we get back, we hit the ground running. Whether it's being a teacher, being in professional development courses at the time, along with all the football stuff you're trying to juggle with the paperwork and meetings and things like that. So it's a busy time of year, but it's a great time of year. We're all excited. Obviously, having that week off kind of rejuvenates everybody and gets everybody ready to go.
What is the expectation like year to year? Because you've raised the bar so high. I've never been in a sport where a team says, yeah, we're going to stink this year. I mean, everybody thinks that if everything goes right, maybe, just maybe they could be a shot. If they're not expected, they could be that Cinderella. But I'm curious what it's like when everyone expects it. And realistically, it can't be done every single time, but that's what you're shooting for. How do you manage those expectations?
Well, it's interesting. Now that we've had success for a while, it shifts for sure. When it comes to managing those expectations, the biggest thing is we're trying to convince our kids all the time that, because we've had success doesn't mean we're going to continue to have success. We have a saying that, success breeds success, but can also breed failure real quick if you think of it the wrong way. If you keep relying on the past. But the biggest thing we try to tell them is we can learn from the past. There's no question. There's a lot of things we can learn from the different teams that have done well. And we kind of pull those in. But at the same time, too, we can't dwell on the past. We got to keep looking forward. And really the way we do that is we just, we focus on the day-to-day process. Whether it's, whatever we're doing at the time, we want to be the best at it. And we talk about that on a daily basis as well.
How much does process change over time? I mean, I've always learned that the results can change. The process, if right, needs to be pure or needs to be consistent. But times change, technology changes, kids change, the world changes, right? I mean, the world after the pandemic, certainly for kids at that age, completely different. So how much do you have to fine tune or tweak on a yearly or even weekly basis?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt you have to continue to grow, and continue to look at things, tweak things like you were talking about. But at the same time, too, consistency is everything in my mind. I think the core of the message, the core of what we're wanting to do stays the same. But yes, there are some tweaks here and there that definitely need to happen. Yeah, as you grow professionally, as our staff grows professionally, and the kids all change, like you were saying, the kids change on a year-to-year basis. So we have to kind of tweak it based on, the type of kids we have and what motivates them, really what gets them going on a daily basis. But, at the core of it all, I think that stays the same. The consistency, that consistency part of it is huge. I think that's, everything when it comes to having success and sustaining success as well too.
So I'm curious, what's harder? Is it harder starting and trying to share that vision and understanding that people may not know what that looks like and feels like yet? Or is it harder to maintain it, having set that bar so high and now everybody expects it? What's harder, starting or finishing, so to speak, or is it all difficult?
That's a good question. Really, when I think back about that, now that you asked that question, I think it's a little bit of both. When you start, there's a lot of people that are doubting or questioning, and for good reason, because they don't know you, they don't know who you are, they don't know your staff, and trying to convince them the things that it's going to take, to have success, and just really kind of, making them understand what success looks like too, because it's different in everybody's mind. But one of the biggest things we did when we started here was, the weight room part of it, and you could tell in the past it hadn't been real consistent before we got here, and then when we established it, though, that was the hardest part, is just convincing kids and parents to understand, it takes work in the weight room on a consistent basis, on a day-to-day basis. And I remember just trying to convince them. And then obviously we share a lot of athletes, and they're multi-sport athletes, which we love. And I'm a big believer in a multi-sport athlete. And all my kids have been multi-sport. My own kids have been multi-sport athletes. And trying to convince them that, hey, the biggest thing we're trying to do is build athletes in the weight room, and not necessarily just football players. But that's kind of a side note. But really, and just kind of convincing them what kind of culture we're going to have, and the type of work ethic we're going to, show on a day-to-day basis. And then once you do reach that, one of the biggest things I remembered winning our first state championship was, I'll never forget that year, because I was scared to death, but I thought we were going to lose every game. They're going into the week, I didn't know what to expect, because we had just come off a 5-5 season, and we returned a lot of kids, but we knew we had a chance to be good. But as the head coach, I never really knew for sure, what to expect out of this group, on a week-to-week basis. We knew they were prepared, but mentally you just never knew. And then once you win a championship, and then all you want to do is keep winning, and
No, I mean, of course, and look, it's hard to do at any level. You're talking about the big schools. You're talking about having a target on your back. I don't care whether it's high school, whether it's college. It's a lot harder to do, I think, at the pro level and even the college level now, with just the, I don't know, the volatility of the portal in college, and certainly in the pros, you get money involved and free agency and all of that. But it's not easy at the high school level either, with everybody gunning for you, and you're getting new kids coming in every single year. How do you let them know that this isn't just a given? Because kids are now coming to Mill Valley, and they believe that they're going to win a championship. They've watched those older kids win championships. They've come through the programs and seen it. And so that's an incredible expectation to have. You want your kids to expect to win a championship. How do you get them to understand that it's not as easy as maybe it looks from the outside?
I think we do that by focusing, on the day-to-day process. Honestly, is we don't talk about winning championships. We talk about what's important now, and what we're doing. We want to be the best at it. It's just every single day is very, very important. And, our big motto in our program is want to know, and want to know it. So in our mind means we want to be the best at what we're doing in the moment, whether it's in the weight room, the classroom, whether it's in the community, whether it's on the football field. That's really what it's about, is being the best version of yourself, at all times. And with teenagers, we understand that, they're going to mess up, and they're not going to be perfect. We don't expect them to be perfect, but at the same time too, just trying to keep that focus on the now instead of always thinking about the possibility in the future. Yeah, we want to dream big. There's no question, but it's at the same time, we want to focus on the now in order to achieve those dreams.
I would imagine that by the time your kids, if they've been in the program, or juniors and seniors, they live that now moment. How hard is it to truly get the younger kids to understand that, especially in a day and age, by the way, where now is attention goes here and there and there and there, and it can be hard for kids and adults, for that matter too, to focus nowadays.
No, that is one of the biggest challenges. Is the attention span is short. There's no question. But at the same time too, is the biggest thing that we when you talk about the young kids is we talk about roles all the time within our program. And every single person in our program has a role, and that role is very, very important. And we stress that, and we have conversations with them individually about how important their role is. And I think doing that, that's what they see, and that's what they try to focus on, rather than, again, the end goal, and them seeing, we have a program that goes all the way down through kindergarten with our youth program, and them seeing, that, and the older kids displaying that, throughout their childhood, that's huge for us, and that really kind of sets the expectations and the understanding of what roles mean.
That I would imagine has become easier. Not that it's any less work. That those younger kids coming up now know that in order to be a part of the Jaguars, in order to be a part of battling for a championship, this is what you have to do when you're in, fifth grade or sixth grade or whatever it might be. I have one more question on the now moment. You and I may have talked about this a little bit at lunch, but I think what has made the Kansas City Royals, among many reasons, so successful this year is that their manager, Matt Quatrero, in year number 2, in a very understated, quiet way, but a very firm way, has made it a part of everything he says every single day, that it's about today. And I would tell him this, we joke about it plenty anyway, it's a bit of a nightmare for someone in my role, because it's really hard to ask about tomorrow or the next day, or even how important today's game is, when it's just about this moment, and nobody cares about what happened yesterday, or they shouldn't, and no one should be concerned about tomorrow. But they've completely bought in. And so when everyone's overreacting to a small losing streak, they're already past it, and of the belief that what they did yesterday has nothing to do with today. Yet it could, right, if they allow themselves. And they're human. Like, as you and I are recording this right now, we just got done with a big series with Boston, and they lost the first 2. They really needed to win 2 of those 3, but they'll be fine. They ended up winning 1 of the 3. They knew it was a big deal. They chose not to talk about it or make it a big deal. How hard is it to get buy-in on something that seems so simple, but I actually think is really, really hard to do?
Well, it's very hard. One of the things, again, we discuss, on a consistent basis is the next play mentality, and it's on to the next play right now, whether it's, that could go in so many different ways, whether you're talking about a game, whether you're talking about a practice, whether you're talking about a rep. That next play mentality means we're moving on. Now we can learn, there's no question we can learn from what just happened, but we got to move on, and get our focus on the next play. And so that's a big, stress in our program is, it's next play. And you would, if you came to one of our games on a Friday night, you'd probably hear all of our coaching staff, from the sidelines yelling at the kids, next play, whether it was good or bad play, because you got to get past the good things too, because you can't celebrate them too long. You got to move on. You got to keep your focus on, the next play mentality. So that's kind of how we try to do it. It is, like you said, it's difficult. It can be difficult if you let things linger, and I think that's one thing that, we try to get across to the kids that in life it's that way too. You know, it's next play mentality. I mean, yeah, some really good things are going to happen in your life. Some really bad things are going to happen in your life. But you got to move on. You can learn from all those situations and all those things that happen, but you know, you got to move on in the next play and you know, and have a positive attitude and get ready to go.
When you came and started the program, or when you became the head coach, is this what you expected? Is this what, of course it's what you hoped, but
Sure.
it's one thing to hope, it's another thing to see it come to fruition. Every coach would like for this to happen. So I'm curious what you expected to happen and what it's been like, if you've even given yourself that opportunity to exhale a little bit and enjoy it.
You know, one of the kind of a funny story, the very first meeting I had with the parents and kids, I stood up there and the theater was packed, and you know, there's 2 rows of dads in the front 2 rows, you know, just staring right at me. And you know, I told them, I said, you know, our expectation is to put ourselves in a position to have a chance to win championships. And I'll never forget, half the audience laughed.
Wow.
And I just, you know, I kind of just said that's going to be our expectation. You know, will we do it every year? Who knows? You know, but our expectation is that we're playing our best football in November, putting ourselves in a position to have a chance. And then you know, when it comes to, you know, now that we've, you know, had some success, I try to enjoy it as much as I can. Obviously, as the head coach, you got so much going on, you know, and so many different, you're basically managing people, you're managing parents, you're managing kids, you're managing coaches, which I love to do. Don't get me wrong, but you know, it is sometimes hard to kind of excel and really enjoy it. But one of the big things we talk about as a staff, you know, all the time is we have to celebrate successes. And I really feel like that, you know, we're very intentional about that. And trying to celebrate, you know, not only successes, and that doesn't mean just championships. That just means we're going to celebrate every success we can in practices, you know, maybe on a rep, you know, or whatever it may be. We're going to try to celebrate as much as we can.
When you start getting deeper into the schedule and you start getting close to, you know, Thanksgiving and that shot at another championship, what are things like at Mill Valley, in the halls, around the community? And you know, a lot of schools, a lot of kids will never experience that, whether that be as players, whether that be as fans, whether that be other teachers. I know that there's something about sports, and certainly football, that being once a week, usually on Friday nights, the way it can bring community together. What are Novembers like in the hallways there?
Oh, they're awesome. You know, they really are. We got such a supportive community. We have such a supportive school and administration team. Our teachers are unbelievable. It's just awesome, you know, and it's something that I want every kid to have a chance to experience, you know, and I'm all about the experience more than anything. And I want the kids to have the best high school experience possible. And obviously having success helps, there's no question, but, you know, yeah, it's a really fun time. It's a very energetic time. A little bit of a on edge time for me, but in the end though, I try to enjoy as much as I can and take it all in, because, you never know. I mean, these aren't guaranteed. Like you were saying, they're not guaranteed. So we got to try to enjoy as much as we possibly can.
And you're such an upbeat guy and so positive, and I love you. You and I have talked about the importance of culture, and we've certainly done that here today as well. What drives you nuts as a coach? What will make you lose it on the sidelines, even as you're trying to get them to move on to next play? Let's start there. What will get under your skin?
You know, that's a good question. I guess effort more than anything. But we don't have a problem with that. We really don't. Now, we had to establish that, obviously. You know, I always tell the kids, you know, we're not here to coach effort. You know, we're here to coach you up and hold you accountable. There's no question. We're going to coach you hard and do those things. But I would say if you came to one of our practices, we're not a yelling and screaming type of staff. We're just coaching. You know, we're celebrating the successes all the time. Again, we're coaching them though. You know, we're going to correct some things, but at the same time too, we're going to tell you when you do an outstanding job as well too. We're not a real we try to display the not get too high, not get too low. We try to stay the same, and we want our kids to be that way too. And just really the belief in that it's all about us. And if we do the things we need to do, things will take care of themselves.
You're modeling it, and football is so stereotypically in your face, loud, motivation, and hit harder, and all of it, the yelling. So it to me, you sound like the way a well-oiled machine should go. It's business, so to speak. This is what we do, and I love that. Not too high, not too low. I know that's cliche, but it's harder to do. It's much easier to say. I know in sports, and by the way, business, anything involving leadership, that when you have your best people modeling what you're trying to do, that it trickles down to everyone else. This Kansas City Royals team, no one works harder or cares more about the game than Salvador Perez at 34 years old. So if he's the senior, he's more than that, the captain, and there are guys on this team that watched him growing up, and they see that he is in the weight room and he is doing this and he is doing that. Now you see the young kid, Bobby Witt Jr., who is also the hardest working guy on the team. Your two best players are modeling everything that you would want. It becomes a lot easier to be able to stay back and just coach and not have to motivate. How much do you have that? How much is that passed on over the years?
Yeah, that's one discussion. I meet with the seniors quite a bit, during the off season, especially during the summer. And I talked to them about how, the best teams are player-led teams. We're here to drive you in the right direction, put you in the position, to have success, whether it be schematically or fundamentally. But the best teams are player-led. There's no question. And, we have a young man right now who's been recruited by pretty much everybody in the country. He just committed to Penn State, and Jaden Woods. And Jaden's just an unbelievable kid. He's an unbelievable leader. He's one of those kids as a sophomore, started staying after practice every day and just modeling that, and we'd have to kick him off the field because we had to come in and watch film, and tell him, hey, Jaden, we got to get inside. We got to watch film. And that started just him. And now we have anywhere from half the team staying after practice, getting extra reps, because they saw him and they saw how talented he was, but yet he was willing to work very, very hard to get the things that he wanted, not only for himself, but as being a great teammate as well too. And, so that's like you were saying, it's unbelievable when one of your best players talent-wise is your hardest worker. There's no question.
And if I'm looking online at Jaden, recruited by Alabama, Wisconsin, he should have gone there only because it's my alma mater. Purdue, Tennessee, Penn State, 6'3", 240. I don't know if that's changed or not, but that's a big boy that I would imagine puts the fear in the eyes of offensive linemen and quarterbacks.
No question. He's just a very talented kid. And again, more than just being talented, he's an unbelievable kid.
Mm-hmm.
Very humble. He's great kid in school, classroom wise, high GPA. Great in the community, great in his church. He's one of those kids that he's one of those once in a lifetime type of kids to coach. He's got it all. He's got the whole package. But the most important thing of all too, though, is that he wants to be the best teammate possible. He's not just about him at all. And all the times that he was recruited, and all the visits he had to take, he never missed one team activity, and so that tells you what type of kid he is. He knows how important it is to be a great teammate and to be there for his teammates. And so, Penn State's getting a good one. There's no question.
Yeah, it sounds like it for sure. All right. I want to get to my baseball themed questions, and I know you won't mention any of these, so I will, but 2023 Kansas Coach of the Year, 2022 Kansas Coach of the Year, 19 Kansas City Chiefs Coach of the Week, same for 21, same for 15, on and on. The awards go on and on, but I'm curious, and of course, all of the championships and 5 straight 5A titles. What's the biggest home run that you have hit in your professional coaching career?
I've thought about that, and there's 2 of them. number one is obviously getting this job, because I had no idea Mill Valley was even in school when I actually applied for it. It was just, I had a really good friend of mine who I coached with, who's at DeSoto High School, and Joel Thamer, the head baseball coach there. He just called me up and said, "Hey, you need to look in Mill Valley." And I had no idea it was even a school. And so coming up and interviewing and looking into the community, and just saw how awesome the community was. And then obviously somehow I got the job. When I guess there was supposed to be around 100 applicants for the job. So that was obviously a big one. But then honestly, probably the biggest one is meeting my wife, because you can't do the things as a coach, even as a high school coach. And I know college and pro coaches spend even more time. But we spend a lot of time up here, and meeting her and having her understand what it takes as well, not only for me, but from her, because she sacrifices a lot, all the time about, with our kids and with our family, and ultimately you can't be a success unless you have somebody in the background really helping you out a lot, and we moved all over the state of Kansas to get to this point, and she's followed me somehow. And we're both teachers, and that was a big part of it for sure.
Very cool. And, I can relate from a standpoint. Look, man, I would agree with that statement. I mean, anyone, husband, wife that is successful in their profession is going to do so with the support of their significant other. I think in the sports world, that reigns so true to me and my family. I'm not living coaching hours, by the way, but I also don't know what a weekend is, never have. And so it's just, when their friends are saying, "Hey, what are you guys doing this weekend?" Or well, we got work, and so it's not a normal profession. It's the best profession. And I'm grateful every day that I'm not living a normal life, that it's truly a unique cause or a unique experience. And I know it's the same for you as well. Okay. How about a swing and a miss along the way? And what did you learn from it?
Well, one of the biggest things I think about all the time is, and when I first got here, we were in a smaller league. We were in the Call Valley League. It was some 4A and 5A schools combined. We had kind of made the decision that we needed to go independent in football, because we knew that if we wanted to get a top of 5A and eventually probably 6A, that we were going to have to play a lot tougher competition. And I referenced that 2014 season a while ago, but we went 5-5 and we took some lumps, and I was questioning things quite a bit about, are we doing the right things? Are we, did we make the right decision? We scheduled Derby that year, and we went to Derby, and they hammered us pretty good. And we scheduled, Blue Valley Northwest that year, and we scheduled some higher 6A teams. But in the end, it turned out to be a really good thing for us. One of the best things for our community was to go down to Derby and see what it was like at a home game there, and they beat us 35-0 that night. But I think we learned a lot as a program going down there and seeing that. And so it ended up really kind of being a positive. But that was a tough year. It was a tough year. I didn't know what to expect, and it was a very tough year in a lot of ways. We knew we were on the verge of success. We were 10-1 the year before, and so going 5-5, we were kind of worried, like, if we don't turn this around and start having more success the next year, then are we going to lose the kids and the parents? And so that was a big test for us.
All right, final one in terms of baseball theme questions, small ball. I feel like in some ways we've talked about that throughout this podcast, because this episode for sure is a culture episode. But what are the little things that add up to big results for you?
Like I referenced earlier about being 1-0, that's a huge thing for us. We whether it's in the weight room, we talk about the details of, technique of a squat. We talk about the details of technique of a hang clean, whether it's on the practice field, all the small little things. And that's what keeps our focus, and we really think that's what adds up, to success. Not only that stuff, but also to, when I talked about earlier about being the best version of yourself. We really feel like if you're really focusing on truly being the best version of yourself and owning your choices as a teenager, because that's tough to do for some teenagers, good and bad, because you're gonna have to own them all. But if we can do that, the success follows. All the things that you want really follow when we're really focusing on those little things.
All right, let's wrap it up with 4 final questions as we round the bases. I'm curious what it was like to be able to coach your kids within the midst of this, and what that dynamic was like.
It was interesting. It was awesome. It's awesome. Still is. I just graduated one. It was kind of nice. He played on the defense side of the ball. I'm always with the offense during practice, so I didn't have to, see it too much and hear it too much. But he's just an unbelievable kid, though. He was a great teammate, extremely hard worker. So proud of him, what he's accomplished. He was a 4.0 kid in high school. Going to K-State, he's a football equipment manager there now. Very proud of him. Very proud of what he's doing. And then got a sophomore still in the program, though. He's a quarterback, so he hears a lot from me. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. So because obviously how important that position is.
He should have gone over to the defensive side if he didn't want to hear it, but
that's right.
He wanted that ball, so he's going to get dad in his ear as well. All right, second question. I know we talked about this at lunch. The family, we'll keep it in the family connection. Is it the head coach at Derby? Was that right? Did I remember that?
Yes, he's my cousin, correct.
Yeah. So what is that like? I know they're 6A, you're 5A, but you talked about some of those struggles against them and learning from them. How much do you guys talk? I mean, that is an institution there, Derby football, and what they've been able to do for years. And I know that you're doing that right now, and you're trying to do that. What are those family conversations, those conversations about coaching like?
They're awesome. He's a great resource to have for him and I. We bounce stuff off each other all the time. We talk on a daily basis, on the phone, and it's really been nice because, again, we can lean on each other, but at the same time too, coaching and education has been in our family for years. Our entire family's in education. Our grandfather he's in the Kansas Teaching Hall of Fame. He was a principal in Beloit for 30 some years. And my aunt was the head track coach at Leavenworth, and she won 10 state titles there for girls track. So she's obviously a good resource to have as well too. So, it's always good when our family gets together. It's very competitive, as you might imagine, whether we're outside playing one-on-one basketball or 2-on-2 basketball or whatever it may be. But yeah, it's got some great resources in our family to really pull from.
All right, third question as we round the bases, as you near September here. I mean, to me, my early background in television was covering high school football, and there's nothing quite like Friday nights, right? I mean, the book down in Texas, Friday Night Lights, and then the TV show, or the movie first, and then the TV show. One of the best books, by the way. I don't know who is reading the books when they can see the movie, but there's something special about Friday nights. What are your emotions like as you get to September, in the midst of one day at a time, this moment at a time, knowing that right around the corner are those Friday night lights?
It's exciting. It's one of those things that, I've never had a problem, obviously, getting up early in the morning, getting out of bed and getting to work. So it's not really work to me. It's not a job. It's a passion. It's something I feel like I've been called to do. But like you said, there is nothing like a Friday night. There's no question, especially one here in Mill Valley, where our community is awesome, where they show up. We have huge crowds. Our band's awesome. Our cheerleaders are awesome. Our dance team's awesome. I mean, it's just a great community event. And that's what I love about it. That's one thing that I always wanted here, being in kind of suburbia USA, you didn't know what to expect. I never thought growing up in a small town, I would be in this situation, but I always wanted it to be a community feeling, and Western Shawnee, where Mill Valley is very much a community feel. We got a strong community bond here, which is awesome. And they're very supportive, like I said, not only of high school football, but all of our sports here at the school. And that's why we've had a lot of success in everything that we do. But, I tell kids all the time, never, ever take these days for granted. There's nothing like high school football. Even if you go play college football, and then obviously if you get one of the very small percentages that go on and play beyond that, there'll be nothing ever like this again. It's just there's a family feeling to high school football that you'll never ever have. You kind of get close to it in some college programs, but you'll never have this. And And so we try not to take for granted, like I said, and we really try to enjoy every moment.
It's a moment in time for these kids. They don't understand that quite yet, and they will. So I think, you know, special times that they'll never forget. And you're right. I mean, it can't be the same as college. It'll be a different experience no matter what they end up doing. And for Jaden, it'll be different than some of the others, but it won't replicate this, no doubt. All right, final question, my walk off, and I'll go sort of bigger picture here. I could ask you to dissect the season that's coming up and all that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm sitting there trying to picture your opening speech to the community, to the parents, and hearing some of those laughs in the crowd. Understandable, right? I mean, it's easy to go back and look and say, "See, I told you so," but they didn't know any better. But it's a daunting task. This isn't necessarily football or sports. It's a daunting task for a leader. Think about some of the people that I interview on this podcast that are running companies, that are in the C-suite, they're in leadership. It's a daunting task on day one to sometimes be able to convince people that down the road, big picture, this is what it could look like. What advice do you have for someone getting in front of a room, maybe of people that are skeptical, perhaps for good reason, that eventually you've got to show and convince that this is possible? How do you do that on day one?
Well, I think that you have a philosophy and you have a, really what you stand by, as a person, not only as a person, but as a program that you're starting, and just stay consistent with it. Don't ever lose sight of it, because there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be people who are questioning what you're doing. But if you stay consistent, consistency, people see that, and they can't argue it, especially if you're doing the right thing and making decisions that are based on kids and not being about yourself, not being about your staff, not being about anything but the kids. And if you're doing that and you stay consistent with that message, and you have a good philosophy on what you want to do program wise, I think, again, if you just stay consistent, that's huge. And people can't argue that, because, and the other thing is what I truly believe is you have to be honest with people, and some people have a hard time with that. And some people have a hard time with you being brutally honest with them. But I believe that's the only way to go, because being transparent and being honest, that gets any gray out of the question. It's there, and so, but just, again, being consistent with all your messages and being consistent with what you want to do within your program, and sticking to it. And sometimes there's going to be some good times, there's going to be some bad times, and you got to stick to it. And that'll take you a long ways.
Yep. In and out of sports, no doubt about it. And those are words that I think everybody can learn from. Consistency, honesty, transparency really is a way of bringing any group together. Of course, you need the talent as well. And it's not just as simple as that, but I think it starts there with the foundation. Joel, thanks so much for spending the time, especially as you're really entering your busiest season. It's always busy as a head football coach and a teacher. 7-0 in title games, 5 straight. Good luck in 2024, and looking forward to, once baseball season ends, keeping a little bit of an eye and seeing how you guys are doing. But best of luck this year, and thanks for spending time on Rounding the Bases.
Well, thank you, Joel. I really appreciate having me on.
It's around the bases. Everybody knows Joe Goldberg.